Winning a gold at nationals. This has been the pivotal theme of Hibike Euphonium since the very start. This is the very reason this anime became special to me. The existence of this very theme is why this moment feels so frustrating, why this speech feels so good, or why moments like these can feel so bittersweet. It's because of this that our main character Oh My Kumiko is able to grow from her apathetic self to someone that could truly embody what it takes to achieve that success. The plot it weaves with its characters truly embodies this whole struggle, and in the end, we as an audience are finally rewarded when they all achieve their goals. Hibike Euphonium shines bright because it takes this so seriously. Despite its cute moments and endearing characters, the show has always been about winning that gold at nationals, and it never really forgets that. It builds on the concept of hard work and dedication to create a large majority of its drama. And while I have to admit I wasn't here for all of the drama, a good majority of it was still absolutely beautiful. The character moments, the growth within them, and the very realistic problems that came with a band setting were always on full display throughout the show. The drama also felt like it mattered, because if it wasn't resolved, they kinda were never gonna win that gold medal. Season 3 makes this all so much more apparent. With the stakes raised, a final chance, and more problems than ever, Season 3 is the truest exploration of everything Hibike Euphonium stands for ideologically, and I have to say I have nothing but love for how the story went and concluded in Season 3. Before we get to Season 3 though, I quickly want to cover Kumiko's development so far. At the start of the anime, Kumiko was someone who was generally apathetic. Someone who couldn't care enough about winning. Someone who saw everything just the way it was and didn't allow themselves to be part of a bigger dream. She couldn't cry at them losing the competition in middle school because, well, what did they expect? They just weren't very good, so they didn't win. In Season 1, when asked whether the club wanted to aim for a gold at nationals or just enjoy their time and relax, Kumiko couldn't raise her hand for either of them. She didn't want her time in the band to be wasted, but she also didn't want to try her hardest and fail, because that's something that would hurt. This mentality is exactly why someone like Kosaka Reina could be the catalyst to her change. Reina was someone who could charge headfirst towards their goals, someone who doesn't care whether it hurts because success requires that level of dedication and effort. Someone who genuinely, from the bottom of their heart, wanted to become special. Kosaka Reina is someone that is inspirational to look at even from my own perspective from the audience. She is the type of person that excels at the thing they want because of the sheer effort they put into it. It's not hard to imagine how that influenced Kumiko either. At the very least, even if Kumiko didn't have it in her to become special like Reina, the club environment and Reina made her want to try. It made her curious of what it actually feels like to practice as hard as she can and then actually succeed at a bigger goal. This is the first shift of perspective for Kumiko. It's what got her to care about the band, about the auditions, and be able to get involved in various affairs. Ultimately, it got her to become someone that could embody the band's philosophy. I'm getting ahead of myself for a second though. What's important here is that in Season 1, Kumiko developed from someone who simply could not care to someone that could genuinely care about a bigger goal. There was also another important aspect in setting up the main conflict in Season 3 though. That was the progression around the auditions.
今年はオーディションを行うことにしたいと思います。
The auditions in Hibike are such an interesting take on meritocracy. The story argues that meritocracy is the way to win a gold at nationals, and while that would be correct, it also underlies all the flaws with the system. It achieves both of these through the instructor Taki Noboru. Taki is the true neutral of meritocracy. He takes the very goal of winning a gold at nationals all the way to its limits. He is the absolute most unbiased character in the show, and it is proven to us time and time again that if Taki selected someone to play, they were simply just the better player. It builds this character for him where he most deeply embodies meritocracy as a concept. That in itself though was his flaw. Time and time again he failed to bridge the gap between the emotions of the students and the main goal. He wasn't able to convince them that his decisions were really for the best. At almost every turn when there were issues, he was unable to interface with the members in a way that was productive, and Yeah, ultimately, it's Kumiko and her involvement that had to do the problem solving in his stead. Which is also kind of like saying meritocracy is flawed. There is a lack of humanity to the whole system that when somebody embodies it so deeply like Taki does, they can't really solve some of the more human issues that do happen in these situations. That's kind of where Kumiko came in. Kumiko did all the mending. Kumiko was the one who convinced people that the decisions made were right in the end, and she's the one that dealt with the majority of issues around the auditions. Which isn't to say that she didn't have her own struggles with the auditions either. Her own past trauma held her back at the start. It's because of the people around her that she could come to believe in the system. In her first year, she was lucky that someone like Natsuki understood her own lack of experience, and combined with the influence of Reina, Kumiko was able to audition without hesitation and secure a spot on the starting roster. This also then translated to her reassuring Kanade to try her hardest for the sake of Kitaoji. That's kind of the difference between Kumiko and Taki though. Kumiko inherited the meritocratic ideas of Kitaoji rather than becoming them completely. She could understand the people around her and their struggles and bring about real solutions. That was all fine as long as the results were convenient for her though. What happens when she's the one getting screwed by the system she so dearly wanted to believe in? That's where season 3 comes in.
Euphonium 3年黒江真由さん
はい。
Season 3 is a true test of Kumiko's character. It's the season where she tries her hardest to embody Kitaoji's philosophy. It's a test of how much that philosophy can hold true against her own wishes, her desires. How far does her belief in the system really go? Does a gold at nationals matter more to her than getting to play the solo with her best friend? All the setup from the earlier seasons led to this very arc. The more I think about season 3, the more I actually love it. With Kumiko's uncertainty at play, Kuroi Mayu being a problem for her, and the whole part of being a club president and managing the atmosphere of the club, this season is just so important. Being a club president in the school has always come with its fair share of drama, and well, this season would be no exception. Even if Kumiko was the one who essentially dealt with all the problems that popped up in the past, it's different now because this time it wasn't just her self-interest that made her get involved in the problems. It was responsibility. She had a responsibility that everyone in the club is happy, that their problems are resolved, and that the mood of the club doesn't derail their path to the gold at nationals. Every small thing felt like it could lead to big issues and ruin the mood, and that's essentially how it felt like for this entire season. With all of this on her, there was a whole issue of her future. The time to make a decision was running out, and Kumiko had to decide whether or not she wanted to pursue music in the future. As if this wasn't enough though, there was Kuroi Mayu. I talk separately about Mayu and her character because I think her arc and perspective this season was almost equally as interesting as Kumiko's. Mayu was forced to audition properly in the pursuit of the gold medal, steal the spot from Kumiko, and then isolated when it really came down to it. Mayu's arc this season is amazing, and I would encourage you to watch my video if that sounds even remotely interesting, but this is my best summary of how I felt about it all. From Kumiko's perspective though, playing the solo with Reina was her big wish. That's what she aspired towards. That's why she put in all those hours. The inspiration from Reina allowed her to pursue a dream, and she was finally in a position to see it fulfilled. Almost as if laughing at that dream though comes Kuroi Mayu. Until season 3, Kumiko had stuck to Kitaoji's ideals. The best player gets to play. Kitaoji is a meritocracy. It doesn't matter who gets the spot as long as they're the better player. She understood Kitaoji's philosophies and embodied them in the moments that really mattered. What she hadn't yet understood though was herself. This was her journey. It was a journey of understanding. Understanding that having competition in Kuroi Mayu was scary. Understanding that she really did want to play the solo with Reina. Until this realization comes though, she finds herself stuck. Unable to face Mayu head on, unable to decide on a career path, unable to fix the atmosphere in the band. Kumiko's situation this season is so beautifully portrayed in the frustrating setting of the show. Losing that second audition, Kumiko felt frustrated. Reminiscent of her frustration in season 1 at the bridge, She wanted to get better back then, and she thought she had, and yet she lost the solo spot. It was a crushing reality. I do want to appreciate how the show made it a point that they didn't sound very different. There was a real incentive to make Kumiko the soloist and ease the tension in the band. Kumiko herself could have advocated for this to fulfill her selfish needs. This whole situation is a beautiful showcase of sacrifice. It may well have been the case that if Kumiko played the solo in the end, they still would have been good enough to win the gold at Nationals, but what if they weren't? Would the self-fulfillment Kumiko got be worth the pain of failing to get the gold? Even if they did win the gold, would it be worth facing the pain of hypocrisy? The correct thing to do here was obviously to trust Taki's decision and uphold the meritocratic principles of the school, because that's ultimately what it takes to win a gold at Nationals. The growth in Kumiko is understanding her own selfish desires, understanding their conflict with the situation, and eventually deciding to trust Taki's decision. The re-audition was interesting because it was the final step on the journey. One last little bit of selfishness from Kumiko, a desire to get closure on the soloist debate, and honestly, one of the times she was able to be true to herself and her own desires. It also doubled as a showcase of Kuremayu being the superior player and deserving the soloist spot, so I actually did prefer the re-audition narratively speaking too. In the end, it was Kosaka Reino's vote that swung the result, which then led to this absolutely beautiful and painful moment between our main duo. This too was a moment of understanding. When it came down to it, Kumiko was not the better player. Whatever the reason for it may be, that was the cruel reality. This is what it took to win. To sacrifice your desires and accept whatever the results are. That doesn't mean all the hard work that you've put in is pointless. On the contrary, with the work Kumiko had put in improving, she could be certain that Kitaoji now stood a better chance of victory given that Mai was still better than her. Whatever the reason was for Kumiko falling short in the end, it was part and parcel of who she really was. The fact that she had doubts about pursuing music in the future was who she really was. The fact that she tried to become special, worked her ass off, and still failed was who she really was, and that's what was actually important. The journey to the gold medal was tough, it was painful, but they got the gold in the end, and Kumiko could hold her head high for those results. In the end, I want to say that I love a lot of things when it comes to Hibike Euphonium. The characters, the painful moments, the relaxed vibes, the Kumiko noises, even the music, which you would not catch me saying I'm a connoisseur of or anything. I'm more of a beeps and boops kind of guy, but when Asuka played that piece under the bridge, it still resonated with me all the same. When Reina revealed that piece to Kumiko in season 3, it still hit me all the same. When it came down to the biggest reason I love this story though, it became obvious to me. The piece that joins everything in this story together is its take on meritocracy, its take on sacrifice and success, and how it uses all of these things to put together a story of growth. It really hit the mark on everything else I mentioned on its execution, but it definitely hit its mark on its themes, and for that reason, this anime is one that is truly special to me. Thank you all for watching.